Another week has gone by and it feels as though Manchester United are at another crisis point under a new manager. And it's strange because United beat Chelsea last week, and listen, there was a lot of different incidents that went on in the game. The red card to Robert Sanchez early on and Casemiro, and I feel as though fans of the club and club media and outside media maybe felt unsure about what to feel about that result and that performance due to those incidents. And next up comes Brighton. That's just gone by on Saturday, and we all know the result, 3-1, and it feels as though it just feels like a turning point for Ruben Amorim and this Manchester United group, for better or for worse. And it feels a lot more towards the latter. And I'm really torn here because I'm always someone who likes to give a manager time, who likes to see a project or to see the progress they want to make come to fruition. But it just feels game in and game out, we're struggling to really see that under Ruben Amorim. And, you know, he's a really likeable character. I've always said I liked his personality. But at the end of the day, when you're the manager of Manchester United, no matter your experience, you have been brought in, obviously, for a reason. And it's becoming troubling for me to find those positives with this manager. Now, I'm going to take you through three main aspects, 3 points that I feel need to be gone over and discussed regarding not just the game gone by, but where I think the club are and the manager are right now and what I think could happen. And look, listen, there's been a reaction of the manager needs to go, and even after the derby, and understandably so in some cases, the manager needs to be sacked, or we need to do this. And I did feel it was a little bit of an exaggeration, but again, I do understand, based on the performance, that there will be questions raised week in, week out about this manager. Now, the first thing for me that's troubling me is his stubbornness. And this has become a hot topic now when we talk about Ruben Amorim and how we view him as a manager. Not only that, but how he sets up this Manchester United team, how he set up his teams at Sporting Lisbon. And I think it's becoming a bit of an issue because I've always been one who thinks if the manager has an idea and he's set in his ways, he needs to stick to those ideas. And he did say coming in, if you remember, in the early months when he came into the job, that he was not going to change. He was going to stick with it, and he was going to see this team suffer. And he, to be fair, he did warn people and fans and spectators and media that would happen. And listen, it was in an unprecedented fashion that Manchester United suffered last season, and I don't think even he predicted how poor they would be. His unwillingness to adapt, to change, to tweak, he's not shown once so far at United that he's not even willing, but he's not, it sounds harsh, but he's not shown the in-game management, that in-game intelligence to find a problem or identify a problem and come up with a solution that is for the betterment of the team and for the betterment of the performance. Therefore, gives you a better chance of winning that said game. And for me, the biggest problem with this system, again, I don't think the system is the main issue here, but I think there are multiple problems with this system that Amorim wants to play. And whilst I think the system itself isn't the main issue here, or let's say the defining factor as to why this isn't quite working with Amorim and United, a few things with the setup do kind of concern me when we go into every game, and a big one is the two-man midfield, and that has to do with the numbers itself, because I feel United are always going to be outnumbered, and with the quality of the league, if you don't have that combative physicality in midfield, or you don't have those players like Declan Rice or like a Caicedo who covers so much ground and, you know, they eat up the pitch, they win duels, they win you the ball back so efficiently, forgetting all of their qualities in possession, I think you're already at a major disadvantage. And I will touch on this in my third and final point with the midfielder situation at United, and I do think it is a personnel problem as well. And listen, I do sympathise with Amorim there. But again, the point of being a manager and the point of being a coach is to find those solutions and to find the right pairing and find that consistency. And again, this leads in to another issue I've got is with his team selection and the stubbornness he has in selecting certain players who just don't perform, who aren't good enough, instead of picking those who are readily available, who can come in and do a better job than those he has on the pitch. This, for example, Altai, who, listen, he had probably one of his better games on Saturday against Brentford and he made a few important saves, but we all know he's not good enough. Everybody who has watched him throughout his career at United knows he's not good enough to be starting for the club. And again, listen, I don't think the strategy from INEOS and the recruitment team was perfect in the way they went about getting a goalkeeper. They knew it was an area of concern with Onana's performances. Why they've not put together more options, more targets for that position, I'm not sure. Now listen, Sene Lamens, I believe it is pronounced. He looks like a promising goalkeeper from what I've seen. I'm not going to pretend like I've watched loads of him, but give him the chance. I understand him not starting him against City in the derby, and I understand him, you know, easing him into life at United, but you've got to let him show what he can do. And for me, I'm pretty, again, like I said, even though I've not watched a lot of him, I'm pretty convinced he will be better than what Altay Bayinde can give United. Things like giving Kobbie Mainoo limited minutes, and I've not been on that bandwagon of exaggerating so much with him not being selected every single game. Listen, I think he's a top-class talent, Kobbie Mainoo. I do think these young players do need to be watched carefully as well and eased into things. I don't think just hammering them week in, week out with minutes does necessarily help them, like we saw with Garnacho, and I think that was a hindrance for him. But to not play Kobbie Mainoo, who, if we're being frank, is Manchester United's best midfielder on the ball. He's the best technical midfielder in a two like that. Playing from deep, playing in advanced areas. You could argue he's our most complete going back to front. And to still be selecting Manu Ugarte over him or playing Bruno Fernandes in that position where we just can see he's not suited to it and he's not as comfortable there, where you need to be maximising his qualities, I think is a real worry for me. Moving on to the second point, and this one is not so much about Ruben Amorim, but so much about how the conversation around him would be different as we're speaking right now. And it's the fine margins. If we look at that Brentford game, and, you know, before this, I did just rewatch the highlights, just to, you know, refresh my memory. And there's a few key moments in the game where it could completely change the complexion of that game, of the conversation around United, and it could have shifted the momentum completely. Now, I'm not to excuse the performance or the setup. Everything I just said in my first point about Ruben Amorim, I completely believe. But if we look at the first goal Brentford score, Cunha does get fouled, and for some reason that isn't looked into. That if that goes Manchester United's way, listen, Brentford might not go on and score the opening goal, and we know how difficult Manchester United find it when the opposing team scores first. And we know how often it happens. Another point, for example, in this regard, is the Bruno Fernandes penalty, who so often does deliver for United. On this occasion, misses the spot kick. That brings it level with, I believe it was 15 minutes plus injury time. It probably gets you up to 20 minutes more to play. And you could argue Manchester United would have the momentum heading into that final period. So it's just these little fine margins that just aren't quite going the way of Ruben Amorim right now. And it's these little swings in football you feel that can completely change the complexion of a manager's situation, and it's between them going on a run and building encouragement and building momentum, or them being sacked. And we feel it's finally on that edge right now with Ruben Amorim. And you wonder if one of those decisions or one of those moments go his way, would we still be talking about him under this pressure right now? Even with the performance, we know how much the results are needed in this moment, and his record is atrocious. atrocious. And that is a big problem. And it leads me on to my final point. What do INEOS do now? What is their stance? And we've seen reports come out about where they are with Ruben Amorim, and we know it's their guy. This is the guy they brought in to replace Erik ten Hag. And it has not gone to plan. They've given him the period of settling into the club. They've given him some players to back him, let's be honest. The window as a whole in the summer wasn't perfect. But if we're looking at it objectively and we're looking at it as a plain black and white situation, he got 200 million invested into the squad, into 3 really promising attacking players. He got Patrick Dorgu in January as well, and Lamans. But INEOS really need to be consistent now, because we've seen in the interviews Ratcliffe has done last year that he loves the guy, he loves Amorim, and he believes he's the guy to bring United back to the top. But when we are getting to crunch time now with Ruben Amorim, where he has to deliver, something has got to give. Something has to give now with Ruben Amorim, and he's not got a lot of time on the table. He's not got a lot of rope left, let's say, with what he has produced at United. And as I touched on before, you don't want to look into the record he's got at Manchester United because it's horrific. It's relegation form, and that can't be ignored. That cannot be looked past. No matter the context or the progress you're looking for, it's a project and he needs time. I think he's had enough time now to suffer like he said he wants to, or that they're going to do. He's had enough time to try to get this message across to his players. He's got an influx of attacking options now. That attack should be more than good enough to score more than once against Brentford. That's no disrespect to Brentford. They've had a decent start, don't get me wrong, and you'd expect them to have a worse start, considering they lost Thomas Frank, they lost Mbumo to United. And when we look at the season United have had so far in these first 6 games, like I said, I always want to give a manager time, and I think there were little things that we saw were improvements. I think certainly in the attacking areas, there's a bit more intent and a bit more aggression, taking more shots, creating more chances, and I think that also can't be ignored. But we're not getting results. Amorim is not getting results over the line, and this is where things could get quite messy. And I don't think we truly thought we would get to this point so soon, even with how poor United were in 24-25. To be 14th now, at the end of September, without, like I said, there's been some minor improvements, but without really seeing, in essence, what this system can be at its best. I think that's what you want to see. You want to see at least one performance across a 90-minute period that shows us what this 3-4-3 can be at its absolute best. And it's not working. And I feel if Amorim continues to stick it out with this system in the way that he's doing, without even making minor tweaks or minor, adapting small things in game structurally or personnel, or keeping a consistent back 3, giving the trust to Lamans in between the sticks, and giving Mainu those minutes, sticking with a consistent front 3, getting Bruno into his preferred areas, all of these things are going to cost him. I really hope that's not the case, because I like him as a personality, but he needs to find something, and fast. Sunderland at home next up, and on paper it looks like a fairly simple game, but with the form Sunderland are in, that is a game of real danger for United, and I don't think a lot of people are realising it. That could be a game where it puts the nail in the coffin. If United go on to lose that, and poorly, I don't even think it matters if it's poorly or we play well. It doesn't matter. I think this Brentford and Sunderland game was an opportunity to build a run of games, of wins, and get 3 on the bounce and get 9 points. But it's getting to a tricky period now for Amorim, where, like I said, the rope that he's been holding on to is running out, and INEOS will have to make a decision. And honestly, I don't know who they can bring in. There's no really readily made options out there in the manager market right now. It's going to get really serious for Amorim, even with his comments to the press. So that's what I think about this current situation at United post-Brentford. Let's see where this situation goes and what Ruben Amorim can conjure up. But thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next one.